It's great to be here at Google. Just getting a quick sound here. Thank you very much. How about it for great Jared Gold on the Hammond B3 organ? Great Mark Whitfield Jr. on the drums. My name is Dave Stryker. Thank you so much. So with the organ trio, we always have to start out with the blues, so that was called Blue Strut, one of my tunes. And we're going to continue now from a record I did called 8-Track, something by the great Curtis Mayfield. And this is a lovely, sensitive love ballad he calls Pusherman Superfly. 1, 2, 3. bought it from Mark Whitfield Jr. on the drums. Jared Gold on the organ. That was, of course, by one of the fantastic jazz groups of all time, Bread. I know none of you know who I'm talking about. It was a group from the 70s. They weren't jazz. But this record I did called 8-Track. How many of you heard of what an 8-track is? I know this is going back. All right, well, I did a couple records called 8-Track and 8-Track 2, and did tunes that I grew up with from the 70s, but put our jazz kind of slant on it. So that came from that. And there was a lot of great tunes from that era, so, you know, it's fun. And a lot of people know those tunes, so it's kind of a cool way to connect with people.
I like to hear origin stories. How did you get started playing jazz?
Well, you know, when I was coming up, it was about the Beatles. You know, I had an older sister who was into the Beatles. And so, you know, it's just really cool to watch them on Ed Sullivan Show and stuff. And I said, I want to be like that, you know, I want to be cool. So it's all about being cool when you're a kid, right? And started taking guitar lessons when I was about 10 and playing in bands and stuff and playing all the tunes that were on the radio and rock stuff. And went to a jam session, got better, went to a jam session at the Union one time, and they were playing some jazz, you know. And so I got up there and sat in, and I had long hair, you know, a Fender Telecaster, and I just got up there and started ripping my rock licks, you know. And one of the guys came up and said, "Hey, man, this is jazz. You can't be playing that rock." So I was like, uh-oh. You mean I'm not amazing? So I went, the next day I went to Homer's Records in Omaha, Nebraska, where I'm from. I said, "Where's the jazz records?" And he said, "Back there." So I went back and picked up ended up walking out, believe it or not, with a John Coltrane record called My Favorite Things, and a George Benson record called Beyond the Blue Horizon. And I don't know how that worked, but those are still two of my favorite records. And just started listening to it, you know, just like I've been listening to the rock stuff. And I was like, wow, I have no idea what's going on here. So it was intriguing, you know. And me and my friends just started learning tunes. And, you know, back then, you know, we were working 6 nights a week at the Hilton, playing. The first 2 sets would be playing, you know, jazz tunes, Satin Doll and Girl from Ipanema While People Danced, or 8. And then the last 2 sets would be like top 40 of the day. So, you know, just got into it that way. Then just kept practicing and moved out to L.A. for a couple of years and started sitting in with some people out there, and then moved to New York about 1980 and went up to Harlem and sat in with a guy named Brother Jack McDuff. And he gave me a gig, and he was one of the greats of the organ. And he had previously had Grant Green in his group, George Benson, and Pat Martino.
Nice shoes to fill.
Yeah, so when I joined the band, he finally got a good guitar player. So it was... yeah, so that was kind of, then after that I met the great Stanley Turrentine, and he asked me to join him, and I was with Stanley Turrentine, the great tenor player, for over 10 years. And all at the same time, I'm in New York playing with all the people here, and just kept, you know, just keep practicing, you know. It's the great thing about jazz, we love about jazz, is the improvisation aspect of it. Whereas, you know, we're playing melodies at the beginning and the end of the song, but in the middle it's wide open, and we're playing over the structure of the song, the harmonic structure, but anything can happen, you know. It's really exciting, you know.
It's different every time.
Yes.
So you write lots of your own tunes. How do you do that? Do you just kind of wake up one morning and decide to write a tune, or you have a process, or just you play something sometimes and it sounds good
Yeah, a lot of times tunes would come out of something, an interesting harmonic structure or chord changes that I thought would be cool to play on, that I thought I could play over well. So I would write a tune around that. A lot of times you'll come up with a melody and then you just want to flesh it out. There's a whole lot of different ways. A lot of times I work well under pressure, so if I have a record date or something, I'll realize, oh man, I got to write some music. So having that, coming record date or gig, whatever I have coming up that I need to learn music for, that will inspire me to write music too. But I have written a lot of music, and I find that's part of my musical personality, as well as my playing, kind of all goes together.
So you did this record a couple years ago with a bunch of horns. That was Roots. And
Right.
Did you do all the horn parts as well? Or?
On that record, that was actually by my partner Steve Slagle. That we have a group, and we did a record called Roots, and he did most of the arranging on that, and I wrote some of the tunes, but he did the horn arranging. And but I've also done horn projects with four horns called Blue to the Bone, where I did a lot of the arranging, or I worked with other people like Bob Parsons, this arranger, and to write the horn parts. So it keeps it interesting to do a whole lot of different things. I guess I've been putting about one record out a year for since about 1988 was my first record, and I was with a European label for many years called Steeplechase, and I could count on at least one record a year. So it's always cool to have a goal, or something to look forward to, to inspire you to try to write some music or think of a new project. So I've done all kinds of records, everything from, just a trio to big band.
So one thing I want to talk to you about is teaching. So you teach lots of, college students. How do you find this new generation?
They're terrible. No,
I thought so.
Just kidding. I enjoy it a lot. I teach. When I came up, I don't tell anybody, but I actually came from the school of just playing on the road, and I didn't go to college. So but not that, I just
now you
gigging.
do.
Like I said, I was working. I was just always working, and my folks were supportive of that. They saw that I was doing something I loved, and so I kind of learned. I learned the music like I think most people have learned it that are the greats, and that is from listening to the Who Came Before. It's an oral tradition. This is jazz. Everybody, from Louis Armstrong. Maybe one of the first jazz guys. Listened to King Oliver. Dizzy Gillespie and Miles listened to Louis, but everybody kind of puts their own thing on it. Charlie Christian was one of the first jazz guitar players, and he influenced Wes Montgomery and George Benson, who influenced guys of my generation like Pat Metheny and John Schofield, and so it's just continuing evolution of the music, but that's how I learned how to play, is listening to records and taking ideas off the record. We call it transcribing, which you would actually note for note take off like a Wes Montgomery or George Benson, Pat Martino, Miles, Coltrane solo off the record. Figure out how they're playing over these chord changes. And hopefully some of that rubs off on your own playing. And so when I teach, I try to use those ideas that I used and try to help them figure out their own voice. So it's very gratifying to do. And I didn't expect to be doing it, but and it's just part of what I do. I mean, I'm very busy playing and touring around and recording and producing, and I have a record label now and doing all kinds of stuff. But I enjoy it. I going out to Indiana is nice. I go out every other week and teach out there.
So you started this new thing, speaking of technology, with Artist Share, where you have online lessons.
Yeah,
how was that experience?
That's great. I mean, I just started this, and this whole internet thing, I really think it's going to catch on. And I feel like I'm really on the ground floor here. No. 11th floor. Okay. Yeah. So I just launched a my own jazz guitar teaching website at artistworks.com, and it's an amazing company out in Napa Valley, and they have what's called video exchange technology, and David Butler is the guy who started it, and he was originally one of the guys at AOL, and is really great guy and really smart guy, and he started this website, and they do everything from bluegrass and rock and roll to classical and jazz. So I'm kind of the jazz guitar guy there. And how it works is it's a subscription site, but I've put up about maybe 120 lessons, everything from basic, intermediate, up to advanced. And the lessons are, say, 10 minutes long. And I cover a subject, and then the student can send in a video of them playing of what I was just working on, with them. And then about once a week, I answer the video exchanges by sending them a video. So it's not in real time, but you're still getting one-on-one with me, and it's kind of cool. Drew, you signed up. You told me.
Yes, I did.
I expect to see you on there very soon with the video exchange. In case you don't know, Richie is a fine jazz guitarist himself. That's how we know each other. He's studied with me.
Thank you.
And yeah, so it's really cool, and you don't have to send in a video exchange. You can just, if you subscribe, you can watch other people's things. So it's kind of a cool thing, and it's brand new for me. So check it out at artistworks.com.
So does anybody have any questions? Or should I?
Hi, first, thanks for coming.
Sure.
It's fantastic. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to the state of jazz in general. Obviously, you mentioned spending a lot of time out on the road, dabbling in new technology, but when you look at the sort of mainstream situation, I mean, even rock and roll is struggling right now, and jazz has kind of been out of the spotlight for a while. I was wondering if you, as an insider, could speak to what you found out in the world and the scene. What's the world of jazz like? Is it healthy right now? Is there a lot of good stuff out there that you found? Versus kind of getting buried by the avalanche of pop music?
Great question. Jazz is very healthy and alive, especially where we are right here. There's so many exciting things happening and people trying new things. There's other fads of music that come and go, and, like groups come and go. People have a hit. You don't hear about them anymore. Jazz is always going to be here. To me, it's real music. It's America. It's America's art form. It's something we've brought. It's comes from the blues, and it's not going anywhere. It's not going to be. You're not going to make millions of dollars at it. Nobody does it for that. They do it because they love to play. They love this interaction you do. There's nothing like this. Those solos we just played just now. They might not have been our best we ever did, but they were the only one that happened at this moment. And it was because of the communication between the three of us. And, just that interaction is a beautiful thing. And that's one of the things that jazz has, the blues and the influence, and then the harmonic things that have been brought to us from all the greats, from Louis Armstrong up to Charlie Parker and now Herbie Hancock, all these great players. There's so many young players out on the scene right now doing exciting things. So it's the audience for jazz is growing too, in different, with different influences coming in, with people like Robert Glasper and different people incorporating hip hop and different, rhythms, bringing in different audiences. So it's, in that way, it's also growing. But, as far as just straight ahead jazz, I mean, there's just it'll never go anywhere, because it's people that love it just want to hear some swing, head down to the Village Vanguard or any of these clubs in town, the Jazz Standard, Birdland. There's a whole bunch of clubs. Smalls has a lot of great stuff happening. So yeah, it's especially in New York. There's some amazing things happening. Thanks for that question, though.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I was kind of trying to watch your right hand. I was trying to figure out what it was doing. It looks like you have sort of a hybrid technique. You've got a pick, you've got fingernails, you've got... What's going on there?
I really can't answer that question. I'm sorry, man. It's just a secret, top secret. People ask that. Like right now, my pick is right there. And so when I play, if I want to play like a single note line, my pick, you know. That's with the pick. Now, if I want to switch, then the pick just goes in there. I just hold it there. And I can use my fingers individually to comp. We call it comping when you're playing chords or whatever. So then I switch to the pick right there. So that's, you know, you got to be able to, you know, to me, I just did it naturally. I don't know. Some people, though, I think you could also do like Eddie Van Halen and get a mic stand and put 500 picks on there, you know. That works too. Or you can set it on your leg and then it falls on the floor and you can stop and pick it up, you know. There's a lot of different techniques. Some people put it in their mouth. This I don't recommend because... you know, it interrupts the gig when you have to go to the emergency room because you just swallowed your pick. But yeah, that's all. That's the answer. I just keep it right there, and then I still can use this finger to play with. So I have my 5 fingers here.
Okay, so how about some more music?
Yeah, want to hear one more? All right. So let's bring up Jared Gold on the Hammond B3 organ, and great Mark Whitfield Jr. We didn't, you know, we could do a whole talk on this instrument right here, you know, with the advent of digital technology and digital keyboards. You're never going to see one of those too often, you know. It's this has got tone wheels in it and tubes. It's called a Hammond B3 organ, and that's called a Leslie. It's a rotating speaker, but it gives it it's a classic sound. And like we talked about Jack McDuff that I got to play with. He was one of the greats of it. Jimmy Smith is another one. So, you know, a lot of times you'll just see a little digital keyboard that simulates the sound of that, but this thing, you actually kind of feel it, right? Yeah, it's cool. All right, so we'll do something off my new record, Strykin Ahead. This is a tune I wrote called Shadowboxing. Thanks for coming out and hanging out with us. Thanks a lot. All right. Mark Whitfield Jr. on the drums. Jared Gold on the Hammond B3 organ. Dave Stryker on guitar. Thank you very much, Google. Great being here.